Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
Hey, it's William, and welcome to today's episode of the Catalytic Leadership Podcast. Each week, we tackle a topic related to the field of leadership. My goal is to ensure that you have actionable steps you can take from each episode to grow in your own leadership. Growth doesn't just happen. My goal is to help you become intentional about it. Each week, we spotlight leaders from a variety of fields, organizations, and locations. And my goal is for you to see that leaders can be catalytic no matter where they are or what they lead. I draw inspiration from the stories and journeys of these leaders, and I hear from many of you that you do too. Let's jump into today's interview. I'm so excited today to have Chad Harward on the show. Chad is the founder and CEO of Pinpoint Management. Chad holds a BS in Business Administration and Marketing, and his business acumen includes business organization, planning, structure, implementation, financial management, marketing, and sales. He's also served as marketing director for billion-dollar companies, where he received multiple high-performance awards. Today, Chad is a seasoned business analyst working with hundreds of business owners in multiple industries. With over 25 years of experience, he has successfully worked with business owners to identify critical business needs and establish best practices to maximum profitability. A proven, powerful, and engaging speaker, Chad has presented to hundreds of business owners, specializing in multiple industries, including retail, services, and construction. He's especially skilled in connecting with his audience and adapting the discussion to meet a wide range of solution needs. Chad, I'm so excited you're here today. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thank you. I'm excited. I appreciate it. I've got to take you everywhere with me. You make me sound really good. I think we could sum all that up and just say, and a lot of years of trial and error. That would be
That's right.
Every business owner, right?
A few lessons learned along the way.
Oh, yes.
Well, I would love for you to start by sharing some of your story with our listeners, Chad, particularly around your journey and your development as a leader. How did you get started?
Yeah, great question. You know what? I followed the script in college, which was back then, get a degree, go get a C-level job.
Yeah.
And I did that to the T, had a great job as a marketing director at a software company, large software company. And then realized, stayed there for a couple years anyway. And everything was great. I got one of the top performance awards. So everything on paper, statistically, should have just kind of been predetermined, right? Following the script. Until the month after getting the top performance award, I was laid off. Ooh. And nobody told me, wait, that wasn't part of the script, right? A major plot twist.
That's right.
So that was one thing. That's kind of the short version of that story. What was also going on behind the scenes that maybe some of your listeners can relate to is I started realizing there was something different about me that nobody told me about in college. And that was as I punched that clock and showed up at my office 9 to 5, very predictable, I realized something was missing. I felt like, wait, I feel like it's a bit monotonous. I feel like there's part of me that's not living at its highest capacity. At the base level, it was just the job I had while it was marketing. I didn't feel like I was, at least with the corporate perspective, not able to exercise all my creativity. There were other things I wanted to be doing that didn't necessarily fall into that job description. And I think the telling sign was after hours was when I had fun. That's when I worked on my consulting company and my marketing agency, and for little to no money. And it didn't matter how many hours I was working. It was so fun. Wow. And so I was hanging out in that space for a while. I had a young family at the time, and my heart was saying, you know what? In fact, I even had an uncle who was a successful commercial real estate agent that I was doing projects for. He said, why don't you just do your business? Do this. This is what, this is your wheelhouse. This is what you've been designed to do. And I kept kind of putting him off, like, because the logical part of me was saying, no, young family, check on the 5th and 20th, won't be coming anymore. And I just kind of kept in this spinning motion, right? Where my heart was going one way, my head was going another.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think when we're not on our ideal path, what I call our highest level self, our best self path, the universe, call it the universe, has a way of nudging us. In my case, nudging was getting laid off when I, in all logical reasons, shouldn't have. And my initial thought, while it was not fun, I initially panicked. I was also somewhat excited, realizing, wait, I just got control of my whole path now. I've got control of those hours from 9 to 5 that I can do anything I want.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, I guess the first principle of leadership was I need to be in charge of my own ship. I need to captain my own ship. And it sounds easy, but then when you're placed with, okay, you got these guarantees in exchange for that control, how committed are you to that now? And it was tough, especially as a young starting out my career, young family. I hadn't learned all the life lessons, the real world lessons outside of the controlled environment of college.
Yeah.
So I'm super grateful at this point for all of those experiences, because that made me who I am today. I think the most valuable life lessons are often those we just experience. And I'm sure you and others can relate, because they're your lessons, right? You feel them, you see them, you live and breathe it, and it sets a blueprint. It imprints, and that becomes part of our trajectory. And if we choose to learn from those things, they can actually be very empowering and potentially very inspiring. As we lead, I think a leader is simply somebody who's willing to pay it forward, willing to give others what they're not seeing. And I think that's why our own journeys can be so invaluable, because you're the only one that went through that. And if somebody's headed down that road, they can lean on you and perhaps learn the lesson faster, making it quicker, making it less expensive, maybe less painful, and we can truly be a mentor in the form of our experience. So long story short, or longer, I guess, that's how I've arrived where I'm at today, and have been in building my business now, that thing I was doing after hours first, now I've been doing it for 25 years and feel like I still am, relearning it over and over again, even as we hit our $1 million marks and things like that. You always feel like you're still in reinvention mode. You've never really arrived. It's just new levels of, what I call higher level challenges, but staying committed to, I like the feeling of captaining my own ship. And those, as we talk about entrepreneurs, people that own their own businesses, leaders, there's just this dynamic that is very real. And that is, what you've been designed to do. You feel it, and nothing against corporate level or executive, leadership and jobs at all. You just know if it's a fit for you. And those that I've talked to, other business owners, one universal agreement is, when I come to that realization, there's no way I can go back to the job at that point. Because at that moment, it's like, I'm designed to do a different path, which is awesome. And then it becomes, okay, how committed am I to that? And what's next? And staying on that path, no matter how crazy it gets as owning a business. There's definitely days, just like a job, You're not going to have great days sometimes as a business owner. And you might even question, man, maybe I should have just stayed in the job. And then that lasts about 30 seconds for me anyway. And I go, no, I'll still take my worst day captaining my own ship. So there you go. That's kind of me in a nutshell.
That's so good, Chad. And I totally agree. There's no such thing as a wasted experience in your life, because they all make us who we are. You would not be who you are today were it not for all of the experiences you've had, including some of those catalytic ones, like getting laid off unexpectedly.
Absolutely.
The month after you get a high performance award. That's just crazy. And I think there are people who are listening who can relate.
Yes.
One of the things you told me when we talked previously that I thought was fascinating, you said, I don't think I've ever heard anybody put it this way. You said, I think there is a pandemic of ball and chain businesses.
Yes.
What do you mean by that? And how on earth do we solve it?
Yeah, great question. So to me, it's one of the saddest things when somebody does finally commit to this dream, let's say, of my best life, living my best life, captaining my own ship. The sad thing is, on paper, we think, okay, I've got control of my 9 to 5. I can choose to write my own paycheck. I can choose how many hours I want to work because I'm a business owner. As we know, and as statistics tell us, though, the reality is all too often the opposite of that. When I talk to business owners, one of the first questions I do, I call it a freedom pulse check, and I check their time freedom and their money freedom. The money side, I say, I look at their P&L, and we take their net profit, money after everyone else has been paid, divided by their weekly hours in the business, including after hours, doing bids, whatever it is, weekends. $10 an hour on average. So minimum wage is what typically comes up. And I asked them, I'm assuming you didn't sign up to do this no matter how much you love it for $10 an hour. And they say, yeah, that's part of the problem. And then we look at the time side, and I say, when's the last time you've been on a vacation? They say, well, they just laugh. What's that? Well, when's the last time you forced yourself away from the business? Well, a couple of years ago, my spouse said, you're coming this year, figure it out. So they force themselves on the vacation. The whole time they're on the phone and telling the family, no, this is my last call. I promise I'll catch up. And that goes on till 8 o'clock. And then at 8 o'clock, there's nobody left to talk to on the phone. I asked them, okay, so at that point, were you on vacation? And they say no. Because mentally, all I could think about was, well, who didn't I talk to? What didn't I catch today? What's going to be waiting for me when I get back? And it's all valid because they have tried it in the past. And sure enough, they come home to a bunch of messes that they just need to clean up, to where they resolve that, well, it's not worth going on a vacation because I can't be on vacation. And then my reward for that is coming back to a lot more work to clean up that I could have avoided if I just never went, which is super sad because in the end they go, but I still want a vacation. I just don't know how to do it. And so what they love originally becomes a ball and chain. They can't stand being there. They're doing it for minimum wage. They can never get any time off, to where it's like, then you start really thinking maybe that job is pretty good because I get paid time off and I get a guaranteed paycheck that's much higher than $10 an hour. And they're stuck because then they go back to, but I know I can't do the job either. That's going to be settling. I won't be happy. They're stuck in this messy middle. Now, to your question, how do we get out of this? So if you can identify with this, and by the way, I've talked to business owners that are doing $1 million, $2 million, multi-million dollar businesses that are that tied to the business still. It's just, they're just spinning the wheel faster, but in the end, they're not keeping very much of the money, and they have even less freedom in their time. So regardless of how long you've been doing what you've been doing, regardless of what you've chosen to do, because that's the mindset is, well, maybe I'm not a good framer, but I could be a great fitness club owner or a restaurant owner. The reality is, business owners who fail at business or who don't have a lot of freedom, won't have a lot of freedom in the next second, third, fourth businesses. And vice versa. Those that you probably know people who made a killing at one business, did a completely different kind of business, different industry, made a killing at that, built and sold multiple businesses, and they win by the same reasons. Both will win or lose for the same reasons. And so let me give you what I believe, after doing this for 25 years, seems to be the pivot points of those that have lots of freedom and those who consistently have the ball and chain, regardless of how long they do what they do or what they chose to do. They just keep repeating history. First is you have to know where you're going. What I mean by that is clearly defined destination. Most of the time when I talk to business owners who, that's the first thing I ask is, where do you want to go? Where do you want to take this business? Where do you want it to take you? And what choices do you want to have? What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? And what's the longest you're willing to put in to have that? I usually at that point have glossed over deer in the headlights look like. I have no idea. I haven't even had a chance to think about that, much less I don't even know how to put my head around that if I did.
Wow.
So it's really simple. You have to have three things to chart a destination. First is it's got to matter to you emotionally first, meaning it's got to live for you. Everything, just like how we spend our valuable resources, time and money, are spent emotionally first. And then logically, we defend them. Strategies follow an emotional cause. There's billions of dollars that are spent on charities where people get nothing other than that really makes me feel good and I contribute to a cause. So it doesn't have to have a tangible meaning. It does have to matter, though, before I write that check, regardless of what that is. I'll give you an example. Talked with a plumber a month or so ago, second generation plumber. He was given the business, took over the business from his dad. Dad was awesome. I asked this plumber, where are we going? Where do you want to take this in 5 years? Where do you see your role being? What's the money? What's your lifestyle? What does your day-to-day look like in the business? And he said, man, that's the big question right now, because you know what? My problem is I'm really bored with this business. I don't like plumbing. It's boring to me. And I said, dude, we got a problem then right now. Before we talk about any strategies, it's got to matter to you. You won't do anything. You won't have any urgency if it doesn't matter to you first. Yeah. So I said, what do you like to do when you have time with your wife and kids? He said, we love to hunt. We all love hunting. We can never get enough time of doing that. I said, awesome. What if your next step, we'll call it point B, is a family hunting guide business where you and your wife work with the spouses, your kids work with the kids. You get to teach your kids how to run a business. You all are doing the very thing that you all love to do if you have the choice. And by the way, you get paid really good in return for doing something you love doing. I said, what do you think about that? And he said, sign me up for that right now. I said, perfect. So if that's where we're headed, what does that mean about your plumbing business today? He said, well, that means every dollar profit I can save and every minute that I can create an efficiency where I'm not working in the business can be one more minute and dollar toward my hunting guide business. I said, exactly. Now, does your plumbing company matter? Yes. Now I see there's a bigger purpose. I said, perfect. Then let's do that. So that's what I mean. So one task is, if you've lost the purpose, and for sure, those of us that have been doing this for a length of time, it's easy to lose track of, why did I start this in the first place? We might have to go back to go back to the beginning and see what mattered. And sometimes that moves on us over time. What was important 5 years ago may not be our true north, and we need to find that again. Second, once you've or actually one last point on destination. So once it matters emotionally, then it's time and money, right? We've got to stick a stake in the ground and have some definitives. And you do that with time and money. Your money side needs to do three things. It needs to pay off all your personal debt, all your business debt, And with what's left, you can maintain your desired lifestyle at that phase, not having to touch the principal. So you've got enough left in the bank and you don't owe anyone anything. So financially now you've got choices. You don't have to work financially. Second, you need to put a stake in the ground on the amount of time that you want to take to get that. So what's the longest period of time that you want to continue to invest in your path, in your business, before you have that option? Some people say, I got 5 years left in me. I would say my experience is a business, even fairly new business, even one that you've been doing 5, 15 years along the way. If you're using best business practices day to day, you can take a business from zero to being able to exit at least your day-to-day role as the owner within 5 years. It's very predictable to do that.
5 years.
5 years.
Wow.
See it over and over again. When you solve the real issues in time and money, and then you take the winnings of that, time and money freedom, and reapply it to the next most critical problem, then it's just like that balloon payment where you just gain momentum. It's how we go out of business, one dime at a time, 1 hour at a time. When you reverse that cycle, the reverse can happen too, where you got the math working for you. So that's knowing your destination. Second is closely to what I talked about, which is, okay, that means if I know I've got 5 years and it's mathematically, I need this number to achieve that. Now I just reverse engineer that, which means I need to know my own math. I need to know, it's crazy how few business owners I talk to know what does your net profit need to be? What's your break even? And what do you need to be doing on every job, every bid, every sell that you make today, times 5 years to equal X number. And that's why you've got to start with the big number, the true north number, and then you reverse engineer that. And you quickly find out, oh, wait, that means for me to have no longer than 5 years, I've got to raise my prices by 15%, or we got to make 7% more profit on every sale, or we need to raise our prices. Whatever that is, we've got to, we know now I know what I need to do. And I just keep tweaking until the math lines up with my 5-year plan. So know your destination, know your math to get to the destination. And then it's all about execution, speed of execution. So just knowing your destination, knowing your numbers still hasn't moved the bus out of the parking lot. Now we've actually got to drive. Lots of people still parked in a bus with it idling. And that's no different than the bus, driver that has no destination on the front. And they're just aimlessly doing work, churning day to day, but they have no destination and eventually run out of gas. Neither will get to the destination. So it's about looking at the math and how does that line up? Just like your GPS, you set that coordinate, it will tell you to the 10th of a mile, to the minute, when you can plan on getting to that destination once you put it in there. And it's dead on every single time. I mean, I've tried a couple times to outguess the GPS and I lose every time. Your business has a GPS. It's your financials. It's your time over money. And you just need to trust the financials that, okay, we have got to hit no less than that 7% net profit, or we will add more time to our destination. There's things in your company that need to be modified and changed. People need to be let go. There's outside forces like economy, interest rates, supply chain, all of this pandemics, all this stuff that happens, inflation, things we don't have any control over, that are going to require a detour, just like your GPS is there and you check it regularly. Once I put it in there, how often am I looking at it? Is there a detour it's telling me to take? Otherwise, we'll add a lot of time and money to the destination or never get there if I don't make the necessary changes. The problem is people either don't know their numbers, so they don't know what changes to make, or they know the information. It's telling them in big, flashing lights, and we won't let the person go, or we won't replace the salesperson. it's funny. I usually use to illustrate this monkeys as an example. And how they catch monkeys. They put their favorite food in a log or a tree, and it's peanuts. A lot of people think it's bananas. It's actually peanuts. They'll put a handful of peanuts in the hole. The monkey reaches in, grabs them, but it can't get its hand back out unless it lets go. He will not let go. Once he's holding on to him, the peanuts will go moldy. They'll hold on to him so long. And the reason is the peanuts represent survival, represent life. And the crazy thing is, even if there's other alternatives outside, they will not let go whether they've got in their hand. And because I might starve to death if I let it go. The crazy thing is they guarantee their death by holding on to them if they never let go. And in business, I see this happen all the time. Business owners who won't raise their prices because they're afraid of losing their customers, even though the numbers show you if you keep doing your bids at 15% below profit, you're going to run out of business. You'll go out of business holding on to those customers. Or bad marketing that's like, oh, but I'm hoping next month I'll double down and make up the money I lost last month. Or it's my idea. I mean, ego can show up here. It's lots of versions of moldy peanuts. So that's the third thing. Is you got to execute fast, and you shift from the monkey trap to what I call to the monkey bars. If you remember that,
nice.
Back in the grade school, it's hard to do at my age now. How did I do this before? But it's the same idea. To get to the other side, you got to let go of the bar you're on, and you swing and you're grabbing. So when you let go, that's step one. But you also need to replace what you just let go of. If it's a bad salesperson or an employee or a marketing campaign, now it's okay. What do we need for that spot? Because you can't you need somebody in that seat. The question is, okay, what did we learn from that? And what do we need? Who is that person? Who's the skill set? What did the numbers tell us? What did we learn? And then you start looking for that. And the next person may be even worse. So you have to be committed to evolution and change, not getting it right every single time, because Fortune 500 companies failed lots of times. The difference is they learn from it, and they're very fast at changing and execution. So those are my 3 tips to evolving and getting out of this ball and chain that so many businesses I talk to are experiencing. Knowing where you're going, charting it in clear, definable time and money terms, knowing the math that's going to require to get you there from a day-to-day basis. And third, being committed to changing and changing quickly, because time is the most valuable asset, even more than money. Is how do I get there? If it's about learning, then I just want to learn quickly. So don't take, if we need to, then if it's let go of people, I'm going to let go of them monthly instead of keeping them for a whole year and then decide, okay, we better finally make that choice. Too many people ride it all the way out, hoping it will somehow magically change. Costs us so much time and money that we'll never get back. If you do those 3 things, my experience has been you will absolutely, at the very least, you'll fly at a level you've never been at, and you'll have much more control and certainty about where you end up getting in that time and money freedom predictably with your business.
That is so practical. And I know that so many people listening are writing this down at a fever pitch, because I talk to agency owners, to business owners, to leaders, and I'm sure you do as well. And these entrepreneurs started this thing because they wanted time and money freedom. They wanted that. That was their goal. But somewhere along the way, they lost their motivation. They lost their passion because they're just stuck on this treadmill, and they're just running and running. And they're in what a previous guest called the freelancer's trap, right?
Yes.
Where they can't let go. They can't stop because they're at the center of the spider web. Everything connects to them. And if they step out, the whole thing collapses.
Right.
That's not what they intended to build, but it's exactly what they built. I'm guessing that road to burnout is one that you've seen with entrepreneurs a couple of times.
It is all too often. Most of the time, everybody, that's the universal thing they're feeling and seeing. It's like, even those that are paying bills, they can be those that even kind of caught lightning in a bottle with getting the right business at the right time. They're just as stressed as the ones that know why they're not making money. Those that don't know, they go, I don't even know how I got here. And so that's just as stressful because I know I could lose it that fast too. Yeah. And it does boil down to that. They're just in this hamster wheel of unknown, unpredictability. And it definitely doesn't need to be that way. It can be, just the opposite of that. There's plenty of examples of people that have lots of time and money, predictability out there. They just do it differently. They learn faster. They apply principles, practices, and they're okay evolving. And to your point, that's the vicious cycle is it has to be an extension of us. It has to be our craft. We start it and we are wearing all the hats. That's a necessity. What you don't want to do is be wearing those hats 15, 20 years down the road. And emotionally, what you can't do, which is super hard, easier said than done, at some point, you got to be okay handing off your baby to somebody else. If you want to get time and money freedom and truly have what you say you want, you've got to trust some other people, I partnered with a great partner 3 years ago. One of the toughest things I've done, I'd been working this for 15 years on my own, forming my craft as a consultant. And I thought my paradigm was, I'm a consultant. How could I possibly deliver my solution without me being the one delivering it? They're buying me.
Yeah.
And I finally realized, well, I can either subscribe to that or I can find another way where I can help a lot more people, still using my philosophies, still using my processes, but expanding my team. And the reality is, they're getting taken care of great at higher levels. Why? Because me and my partner synergistically have way more to offer than I could alone on my best day. But that took me emotionally letting go. I had to let go of that peanut and go, it's going to be hard, but I'm willing to swing to getting a partner and then building a team around us. And our business tripled in the moment I did that and continues to grow at a much faster pace than my hardest working day ever. And the best part is I'm putting out way less emotional effort. I'm still working the business. I still put the time in, but I don't have that heavy weight that comes with, man, I look around and it's just me. And that's just a job still. All we've done is we've traded the job to where, okay, you can have your name on the job and you get to work unlimited hours for maybe some money. It's like, that's not actually an upgrade from working for the corporation. You're better off sticking with the job if that's what you're committed to, but easier said than done.
So well said. That so lines up with the experiences I've seen in so many of the people that I talk to. I want to take you back, Chad. I want to take you back to when you came out of college, that fresh-faced young leader with that diploma that's still got the curl in it, right? Where it was rolled up. If you could go back and talk to that Chad, given what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
First thing that comes to my mind is trust your heart. Trust your gut.
That's good.
My gut was just screaming. So I still remember to this day, just like I still remember the feelings that I was having back then, that inner struggle. And I just know myself, I'll speak for myself, but maybe others can relate to this. It's just my lightning rod. It's like, whether it's personal or business, it's just life, right? Life fulfillment and how we choose to spend those valuable minutes and the path we choose. And we've all got so many choices. To me, it's the one thing I can always rely on, regardless of how old I've been. It's never wrong. And it's still an individual choice every time that fires up again, because as you grow a business, you're going to be checking in. It's like, okay, is this the best decision? Is this the best path? And as I talk to business owners and I lay out from my perspective, after looking at their numbers and looking at their plan, I'll give them a path and go, it seems like you're much more happier going this direction or with this strategy. And I will always hear, yeah, you know what, Chad, you're right. I felt that for years. And I'm going, why didn't we just burned 3 years. We could have gone back and saved a big detour of 3 years that who knows what we could have created with that time back. And all they had to do was just trust it. And it's easier said than done. It's like, why aren't we doing that? Or the other piece that I would say to that self is, we start as we're hungry, as we start out, we're fresh on that career path, on that business building path. We start doing really amazing things. We get creative. We're doing all of these things that actually start working. And why this happens, I have no idea. But as we start making money, as we start maturing, we quit doing some of those things that actually work really well. They're cutting edge, they're innovative. And I think comfort, we start getting passive. We start cutting corners. We forget. And there'll be those conversations that I'll have, like, or I'll bring stuff up. Hey, you ought to try, what about these things? It's like, yeah, you know what? That's interesting. You bring that up. I was doing those things when I started. Well, why aren't we doing them now? I don't know. I just kind of fell out of the habit. So that would be my other thing, is keep doing the things that definitely worked. Make business, make career path, make leadership easier by continuing to keep the things that worked and building on those things. If they work, then, as long as numbers and things don't tell you otherwise, why wouldn't we keep doing those things? And so that would be my other point. The third one that I'll leave you with is what I have gained, which I would think is just kind of more wisdom, because it's part of the journey. We start out with our need and focus to make a dollar. And I believe we traject and end up where our focus is making a difference.
Yes.
And that is all about people.
Yes.
And what can I do to make a difference in everybody's life? How can I shift from making a sale to making a difference? Yeah. But can we do both? Can I shift my sales conversations from, hey, how do we get you into my product or service today, to, hey, what do you need? Yeah. And what could I do to help you get there, whether it's with me or not, whether it's doing business with me or not. Yeah. And that, I believe, is kind of the new, for me anyway, that's been my latest evolution. And sometimes it's tough to go, well, so I'm giving myself permission to not get the sell. Yes, you're giving yourself permission to making a difference instead of making a sell, making a relationship, leveling somebody up. And my experience is, when that's our primary focus, the money actually takes care of itself. It will show up, whether it's that person or a referral from that person who wasn't a fit for us, but they give us 3 people who were, because of the experience they had with us, that they can trust, that will take care of the relationship. So that would be my third one.
That's good. That's really good. I love that focus on making a difference. And I agree with you. I think that as we go farther and farther into our journey, that becomes more and more of a focus. Is there a book that has made a difference in your life, Chad? Something that you've read that you would recommend that every leader, every business owner who is listening, they need to pick this up. They need to read this, because this is the one that makes a difference.
Great question. Man, I will, in full transparency, I've never liked to read, but I will listen to a million books. I've probably listened to 10 to 12 books a month.
Wow.
Of all my books, I would say the one for everybody, whether you're a seasoned business owner, seasoned in your career, or starting out, Simon Sinek's Start With Why.
Yes. Such a great book.
Great one. That's the emotional piece. And then if you want to add the financial piece, the logical piece, it's Michael Michalowicz, Profit First. Paying yourself first off the top rather than last, paying yourself the most than the least, putting money away while you grow your business instead of your career, instead of, putting it back into it, hoping at the end there's enough left over. There's just the rule that when our profit, what we get, is always viewed as whatever's left over. There's never anything left over. We always spend to what we make, whether it's a career or a business. So you have to take the top off, and then you make the decisions off. If you want to keep 10, 20%, then you operate on the difference, and your money is safe regardless. That's how we can organically create a predictable profit exit, whether a career and retiring or a business and selling it. And if you start with why, we also are fulfilled throughout that whole process, because that why has to get us out of bed every day and keep us moving. And then financially, we've got a roadmap to take care of the money and have a plan for it before it arrives.
So good. People often will walk away with one thing from a podcast episode, one thing from a book, one thing from something that they watch. If you could define what the one thing is that you want people to take away from this conversation today, what would that one thing be?
I would just say, stop where you're at and take a breath and decide, what do you want? What do you want emotionally? What do you want financially? And get just super clear on that. And it doesn't take a lot of, it's not rocket science. Chart down on a piece of paper what you want your life to look like in 5 years. And what is that? What will that cost in time? What will that cost in money? And what will you do with those resources when you have them? That's how you tie the money to the why.
That's good.
When people say, well, I want to make $1 million, like, okay, why? I don't know. I just thought that's all what you always hear. You want to be a millionaire. I don't know why. Well, what would you do with the money if you had it? I don't know. I just think it'd be cool to say I made $1 million. The problem is, statistically, and you can see people that win lotteries and things like that, if you don't have a why for those resources, they will go away. Time and money have to have names to them before they arrive to you. That's why I would say your most important thing you could do from what we've talked about today is take a step back and go, I'm captaining my own ship. Where do I want my ship to be in 5 years? What do I want that to feel like? What do I want it to look like? What's the difference I plan to make in the world and other people's lives because I achieved those things, and how I will use those resources when I get there. And then simply reverse engineer that math to today. And that starts right now today. You can, regardless of how many messes you've had up to this point, you do have 100% control of where you're going starting today.
Yeah, this has been so incredibly practical. I think people can take what you've said and they can begin to put feet to this, which I think is the sign of true wisdom. I know folks are going to want to stay connected with you. Like, what is the best way for people to do that?
Yes. You know what? Couple options. I'm on LinkedIn, Chad Harward on LinkedIn. You can message me. If you would like to spend some time talking about your path and how do I chart that? How do I do what we've talked about today? Go to chatwithpinpoint.com. That goes right to my calendar. You can book some time with me. No pressure, no obligation. My why is I want to help as many people as possible live their best life, whether that's in a business, whether it's in a career path as leaders, leveling them up and create reality off of that, what often feels like a mirage. Can I ever get that? My website is ppmanagement.com. You can go and check us out, see what we're doing, see some of our customer experiences. But yeah, those two ways, message me on LinkedIn, schedule some time with me, chatwithpinpoint.com. I would love to hear your story, would love to help however I can, try to pay it forward. If it involves us, we've obviously got lots of experience and tools figuring this out over the last 25 years, and we're still figuring it out too. But whatever I know, I will be happy to pass on.
Chad, thank you for being so generous today with what you've learned so far along the way.
Thank you, William. I appreciate the time. It's been amazing.
Thanks for joining me for this episode today. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do two things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, if you don't have a copy of my newest book, Catalytic Leadership, I'd love to put a copy in your hands. If you go to catalyticleadershipbook.com, you can get a copy for free. Just pay the shipping so I can get it to you, and we'll get one right out. My goal is to put this into the hands of as many leaders as possible. This book captures principles that I've learned in 20 plus years of coaching leaders in the entrepreneurial space, in business, government, nonprofits, education, and the local church. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take a next step with a coach to help you intentionally grow and thrive as a leader, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to catalyticleadership.net to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, leaders, choose to be catalytic.
Thanks for listening to Catalytic Leadership with Dr. William Attaway. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode. Want more? Go to catalyticleadership.net.